So today might be one of the worst days for open source AI in a very long time. And I don't say this lightly because what happened in the last 48 hours could mean that we have effectively lost one of the most important open source AI model family in the world. And I'm talking about Qwen. Now, if you don't know why that matters, let me explain. Because I think most people are underestimating how big this is, given that it can go beyond Qwen, and the economics of open weight models don't make any sense at the moment. Now, when it comes to open source AI models out of China, there are really four names that matter. We're talking about DeepSeek, Moonshot, Minimax, and Qwen from Alibaba. And it's actually the Chinese companies that are really pushing open source AI forward right now. DeepSeek shocked everybody with their efficiency last year. Moonshot is pushing multimodal models now. Minimax is building some really interesting video, speech, and LLMs. But Qwen is special among all of them. Qwen is the most downloaded open source AI family in the world. It has more than 1 billion downloads, and there are more than 170,000 different variants. We're talking about more than Llama, more than anybody else. But here's the thing that makes Qwen different from likes of DeepSeek or Moonshot. Other Chinese companies are trying to compete at the frontier. They're releasing big models, 600 billion parameters, or maybe even 1 trillion parameters. But Qwen is the team that is focusing on small language model. We are talking about 0.8 billion, 2 billion, 4 billion, 9 billion. These are the models that you can actually run on your laptop, on your phone, or on the edge devices. And these are the models that actually makes open source AI practical. The main thing is that since these are open source models, you can do anything you want with them. One example of this is Airbnb. So Airbnb's customer support chatbot runs on Qwen. At least that is what was happening last year. Brian Chesky said it publicly. He said it's very good and it's fast and cheap. He said ChatGPT wasn't ready for what they wanted. So the thing is that if Qwen stops releasing open small models, there is going to be a real gap. And this is a gap that currently nobody is positioned to actually fill. Before I tell you what happened, I want to explain why it happened, because this isn't random. There's a fundamental tension at the heart of open source AI that most people don't talk about. The first thing is why companies are releasing open weight models when they are spending millions and millions of dollars training them. So let's take the example of Alibaba. Why would they release or give away their best models for free? There are some really good reasons for it, right? And then we're going to also talk about why they're probably thinking not to do it anymore. So in terms of the good reasons, the first is distribution. If your model is everywhere, people build on top of it, and that could potentially drive traffic to your cloud platform. Now, Alibaba is a big player outside of the Western world, but having open source models, especially in the US or in the Western worlds, doesn't really drive traffic to their platform. Second is talent. So best researchers wants to work on things that matter. And open source is a way to attract the best talent out there. Then it also gives you the ecosystem control. If the open source standard is your model, you shape the industry. But here's the problem. None of that shows up as revenue. And Alibaba in itself is not a research lab. It's a 400 billion e-commerce company. And right now, it's in a brutal war for AI users in China. Its closest competitor is ByteDance. They have Daibu app, which just crossed 100 million daily active users during the Lunar New Year. That makes it the first Chinese AI app to hit that number. And what did Alibaba do in comparison to that? So during the same time, they went from Qwen's daily active users went from 7 million to 58 million in a week. And even then, they are still 23 million users behind Dabu. Now, think about that. You're almost spending $400 million on user acquisition during the Lunar New Year festivals. You're competing with ByteDance, which has 100 million daily active users. Now, ByteDance is connecting their app to different e-commerce platforms. Alibaba is also trying to do the same thing. So this is basically a consumer AI war. And in the middle of that war, you have the Qwen team, which is giving away your best small models for free under Apache 2.0 that Airbnb and American startups can use to build on top of them for their own products. Now, at some point, that math stops making sense. And I think this is exactly what happened to the Qwen team. Now, let's talk about what exactly happened. So on March 2nd, Qwen team shipped their latest release, which included 4 small models. Seems like the team was working until 6 in the morning. The tech lead of Qwen, Junyang Lin, shared on X, and his words were interesting. He said, final shots, these are the small models I told you. And it was really well received. Even Elon Musk chimed in and called it impressive intelligence density. So everything seemed normal. Everybody was celebrating. But then the next day, Junyang Lin tweeted, me stepping down by my beloved Qwen. This was kind of shocking to everybody. And you had over 1.5 million views and thousands of replies to the tweet. But then the dominoes started falling. You had the core contributor to Qwen 3.5 stepping down. So it seems like there was a huge exodus from the Qwen team itself. We're talking about the tech lead, the head of post-training, the head of code development, core contributors, and unknown number of junior researchers. This is like gutting the core team. Writers called Lin the 3rd senior Qwen executive to depart this year. According to VentureBeat, what emerged from the internal discussions is revealing. The core disagreement was about how AI should be built. Under Lin, the Qwen team operated as an end-to-end vertically integrated unit. We're talking about pre-training, post-training, infrastructure, multimodal research, all under one team, one leader. And that's how you move fast. And that's how you ship models that can compete with GPT-5 and Claude Sonnet 4.5 with code far fewer resources than competitions. The new corporate directive splits that vertical structure into horizontal modules managed by Alibaba Cloud. VentureBeat called it the Geminification of Qwen, which is a shift towards a more regulated product-centric culture. Now, there were reports that said that Alibaba prefers talent focused on application over solely underlying model capabilities. So applications or model capabilities, that's the sentence that tells you everything. VentureBeat puts it bluntly, if you value Qwen's open source efforts, download and preserve the models now while you still can. And that might be a little dramatic, but here's the structural concern. Alibaba has been reorganizing around a customer super app for over a year now. In December 2024, they split the team. December 2025, they created the Qwen Consumer Business Group. Now, the question is, like, when you are in a user acquisition war with ByteDance and you're spending $400 million on customer acquisitions, the incentives to keep giving away your best models for free under Apache 2.0 starts to evaporate. And this is something that could actually happen to any company. If you look at something like Meta, they were able to support open weight models in the form of Llama. But at some point, if you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on open source models that is not bringing in any revenue, on the business side, you actually start to question it. Okay, now I want to be honest about what we don't know. I don't want to speculate things. So we don't know all the internal details. We know there was a structural disagreement about vertical versus horizontal team organization. We know there's a tension between open source research and commercial monetization. We know Lin was unusually candid about China's AI disadvantages, but we don't know exactly which of these things caused the break. Here's what we do know though. If Qwen's open source output slows down or goes proprietary, there's a real gap in the small language model space that nobody is currently positioned to fill in. And that is going to be a big loss to the open source AI models. And it goes beyond just large language models. Qwen has been building ASR models, their speech generation models. They have been doing some really, really great work. So hopefully, even with all these departures, Qwen will still continue to not only build great small language models, but also keep them open source. Now, do let me know your thoughts. But right now, it doesn't look good from the open source standpoint. Anyways, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching. And as always, see you in the next one.